Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today I would like to show you something really interesting for Swift 6, because if you've downloaded Xcode 16 by now, which you probably have if you're on this channel, because we like to be on the cutting edge of what Swift and Xcode can do, you've probably seen that Xcode 16 comes with Swift 6. However, Swift 6 is not the default yet for new projects that you create, but it is the default for new packages that you create in Xcode. So that's quite interesting, and I wanted to take some time in this video to tell you about Swift language modes and how you can actually set them, because it'll be quite interesting for you to either move to Swift 6 if you're working on the project, or maybe if you're working on the package, you want to have that on Swift 5.10 instead of Swift 6. So let's go on ahead and take a look at what happens when we create a new project and how we can change the Swift language mode to our needs. Okay, so what I have is a project that I just created. This project is pretty simple. It only has just the bare bones, really. It has a package and a app target in it. Right, so this is my app target, nothing too fancy going on here, and I have a package which only has a package.swift file. So nothing special here, nothing weird. I did not want to go through the trouble of showing you something more complicated than what you really need. So let's take a look at my project first. So if we have the project here, and I look at my target, it's just a plain target. It targets iOS 18, and it can actually make use of new language features, right? So I could actually have a function, this function throws, and I can make that a throws function, and I can define a custom error, like for example, my error conforms to the error protocol. And now this function that throws can actually specialize itself to throw an error of type my error. Right? And this compiles perfectly fine. And so if I go to my build settings now, and I go on ahead and look for language version, what I'll find is that my Swift language version is set to Swift 5. So in practice, this means that I'm using the Swift 5 language mode to build my project, but it is a Swift 6 project. And every project that we make in Xcode 16 is going to use Swift 6. It's just it's building in the Swift 5 mode. Thrown errors or typed errors, or typed throws, I should say, were not available in Swift 5.10. Right? If you were to type this exact function into any Xcode 15 project, that would not work, because typed throws were not a thing until Swift 6. So this is how we know that we are in Swift 6. We're just in the language mode for Swift 5. So what do we get if we move to the Swift 6 language mode, which we can actually do right here? What we actually get with this is way stricter concurrency. So what we can actually do is we can actually define a type here, class some type, and make that conform to the sendable protocol. And we can give it a var counter equals 0. Now this is actually going to give us some warnings, right? These warnings are telling us that this class that I've defined cannot conform to the sendable protocol, and that having a variable or mutable property on a sendable object is not allowed. And these are all errors in Swift 6. So we can see that we do have a Swift 6 feature here, but these warnings around Swift concurrency are still in the Swift 5 language mode. So if I move over to the Swift 6 language mode right now, and I build my project again, what should happen is these are now errors. So that's the difference between Swift 5 and Swift 6 is Swift 6 language mode is going to get you a lot more concurrency related checks, right? So you can kind of step up from Swift 5 mode to strict concurrency to Swift 6. So that's how you can kind of migrate over and eventually be in Swift 6 mode. Now, if we actually take this code right here, so just before I do that, let me show you again how to switch language modes. If you go to your target, go to build settings and find language version, you're going to be able to switch to Swift 5, which is the default, or move to Swift 6, which will get you everything that's currently active in Swift concurrency. If we look at our package though, our package is just the same sort of default setup, just like the Xcode project, but if I paste this in and I tell Xcode to compile my library, it's actually going to tell me that this class cannot be sendable. And that's because my package was created with the Swift Tools version of 6.0. That's going to be the default. If you've created your project before, you might have actually had it set to Swift Tools version 5.10. If that's the case, you suddenly go back to this warning instead of having an error. But you might want to change your tools. So what you can actually do is you can pass the language mode over into your target, right? So target takes a lot of arguments, and the one that we are interested in here is Swift settings. So we're going to pass Swift settings. Oh, hold on, we need to pass that to our target. There we go. Swift settings, and then we can pass .language mode.v5. All right, so that will get us the language mode for Swift 5, and now I can compile this. All right, so we have tools version 6.0, language mode version 5. If we move away from the Swift 5 language mode now, we will actually see that we're back to having an error here. Right, so if you have a Swift package and you don't want that new Swift package to be all in on Swift 6, you're going to have to set the language mode back to version 5 yourself, right? And so now we can build again. There we go. We might have to clean our project a little bit. Warning's gone, now we only have these. Right, so that's how we can change the language mode between Swift 5 and 6 for both packages as well as your project. Now, Xcode 16 comes with Swift 6. That's really, really good. What I find a little bit confusing about Apple's choices here is that for Xcode projects, they've explicitly told us that the default that they're going to use is still going to be the Swift 5 language mode, because they realized that moving to Swift 6 is going to take a lot of work for a lot of people. But when we create a new package, Apple figured that we might as well be all in on Swift 6. Maybe they have a point. We can do package by package migration. We can have a Swift 6 package in a Swift 5 language mode project. That's exactly what we had just now. But still, I'm not quite sure how I feel about having two different defaults. But at least now you know how you can switch between the Swift 5 and Swift 6 language modes, both in your Xcode project, in your app targets, as well as in your Swift packages. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like the video. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you change that right now, because I really appreciate you all subscribing. And we'll see each other again in the next video. Thanks for watching.